Moving to item number 3, ask for a formal reading on that, please.
A resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with A&A Concrete Company for the 2013 concrete repair project in an amount not to exceed $110,000.
Andy Knowles, our Director of Public Works, anything to add, sir?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you very much. I have placed before everyone some updated maps and for the new board members. I gave you a presentation from May 15th of 2012 that will help give you some background on our pavement maintenance program that you can review. I'll be happy to answer questions about. Basically, we go through the entire city. We establish a plan for the next 3 years, what we want to accomplish in terms of pavement maintenance. And we break that pavement maintenance into 1-year segments. And the first project that we bid and typically let out for construction is concrete. The concrete bid is for the replacement and repair of concrete curbs and concrete sidewalks, and then also an update to include ADA ramps at intersections on the roadways that we're working on. The low bidder was, as stated, was A&A. We are also asking for a slight increase for any typical change orders that come along with a project like this. We measure these curbs in early spring, late winter, and it's not uncommon for the actual distance to be replaced is slightly different, so we do need some of that ability to make those changes. And then this also helps us if we have something come up during the contract that we need to get done quickly. This allows us to complete those change orders and get the project completed. So it does provide us a little bit of leeway to expedite the project. Here to answer any other questions you may have.
Other questions, Mr. Knoll?
Motion approved.
Have a motion approved by Mr. Kramer. Is there a second? Second was Jason Green. Josh Green. I got to work on that, guys. I'm sorry. Josh Green, Ward 1. Motion made in second. We're into discussion. Lightfoot.
On the color-coded map, designated with lightweight aggregate or the overlay.
Yes.
There's a portion there, it's in Ward 5, 83rd and Northern and Hedges.
Yes. That was a section that we actually added last year. Late in the year, we had some roadways that we were having some significant issues with, and we had some funds left in the project overlay from underruns on the other projects, so we added that to the lightweight aggregate program last year. So we were just wanting to note some areas. It was actually one we were wanting to complete from the 2010 to 2012. And had to leave off because of budget constraints, but had enough left at the end of the year to actually complete that section.
Thank you.
Ms. White, Ms. Nelson.
Have we used the A&A Concrete Company before?
No, we have not. They provided references mainly from Kansas City, Missouri. We called and checked on those references, and they would use them quite a bit, and they would recommend using them as well as Jackson County.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Frazier.
A couple things. When I was elected 14 years ago, for the first time, one of the requests that the residents on Ralston between 72nd and 75th was to have the street overlaid. It was the last street in Raytown that was converted from gravel to blacktop. It's never been re-overlaid since that time. I take it for granted that in the last 14 years, most of the people in that street have died or moved away, except for one. Never has been overlaid since it was converted in the 1960s. So, also when you did the seal a year ago, you did all the streets in Southbrook except for that, and it was the only one that was admitted at single street. So I guess I would ask the question, what did they do to build that street that make it so indestructible? Or why is it that we have never either sealed it or re-overlaid it? And I brought this up probably 10 or 15 years. I asked you last year when you said you did all Southbrook, and then when I questioned you on it said, oh, that was the one street they weren't doing.
Could you help me out with,
Ralston between 72nd and 75th.
oh, I think there's some other, I think there's a Willow, there's a couple of streets in that section that we still need to complete, and we still want to come back and do those. How they actually constructed that, I don't have that information available to us. It's really difficult to find out what made it happen differently on that particular roadway. A lot of it is typically due to the base underneath the roadway surface. But how we go about selecting the streets is based on their need currently. So if the street's holding up really well, which is what we would like to see, it will be deferred until the treatment is more needed and necessary for that particular roadway. So that's really, it's based on, we look at the roads, compare them to the other ones throughout the city, and then select them based on need and how much longer we think the pavement surface can provide a smooth grading surface.
Yeah, I may just drop by your office and we'll talk about that. Maybe you can go out and look at it yourself. I mean, it needed it 14 years ago when I first got elected. Also, here's the name of it, I think it's Lakewood Drive. The cul-de-sac is concrete that we repair every year. Was in really bad shape a year ago. And I know that in the middle of the year they need to go out and do some work. Are you going to convert that to blacktop, or are you going to?
Correct. That is our goal with all of the current concrete streets, because we focus on asphalt maintenance with our smaller staff. This year we'll be converting the concrete streets around EMS. We're going to try to get all of those done, and then some of the last roads are there on the north side of Mottley Lake, where we need some more concrete streets. So
and that's the only street on that little list that's not colored. All the rest of them are, except for that little cul-de-sac.
Correct, and that would be a lightweight aggregate. The lightweight aggregate on top of concrete does not work very well, so it's not a great preventative maintenance.
So you're not going to convert the blacktop, and just leave it like it is?
Convert the black.
Well, it's concrete, it's crumbling apart.
Right.
Every year they get about 4 or 5 major holes, they got to go out and redo it again.
Right, and we'll continue to patch that until we can get those converted to blacktop, and we're just trying to take as many as we can a year without neglecting the other program needs that we have with concrete, asphalt, and the lightweight aggregate. So we're taking a few this year, and then hopefully next year we'll be able to get to those as well.
Okay, I guess my only question, not a question, but as I see it, when we are going out year after year after year to do concrete work because it's falling apart, I'm wondering how economical that is compared to just converting it and having not to deal with it for maybe like Ralston, I have to do it with 45 years. Anyway.
I think the idea of you sitting down with Mr. Knowles is a great one, sir.
Thank you.
Simpson.
Thank you. I have a point of information. I have 2 questions. First, I would like to mention that in the past month and a half, I have driven on all the roads and walked on them in my Ward 3. The worst road that I have been on has been Hunter Terrace. It is like a washboard. It's like a third world road. And I had people in that area tell me that they would go a different direction in order to avoid it. And it has been patched so many times that it just is really a difficult road to drive on. And then it's not in my ward, but the entrance to the exit going out of the post office on 63rd Street is a nightmare. It has been crumbling at where the seam goes for the past year, and now it's a hole, and people the tires fall into it because it's gotten so big. And then on Willow, there's a sinkhole coming west years that one of these days it'll collapse, and the buses travel over that every day to get to the barn and to transport children back and forth to school. So I just wanted to know also why there's so much work being done on the south side and so many of the other areas are being left not attended to. And I would like to see these areas taken care of in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. I can address a lot of the work on this particular project that we're doing is with concrete work is in the south because that's where we have more curb and gutter roads and more sidewalks. So that's where a lot of the concrete work is focused. But we do try to make sure we're getting some of those areas spread throughout the city. So, but we will take a look at these areas and let you know what we find.
Thank you.
Mr. Knoll, will the new alderman give the refresher or the course that describes how you go about prioritizing roadways and how that's reviewed on an annual basis?
Yes, we do plan on bringing that before the board in May. We would like to sit down with the alderman and we can try to schedule a time where we can go out and look at facilities and public work projects, things of that nature, if we have time to
I
do so.
think that'd be quite beneficial. Thanks, sir. Other questions? Got a motion and a second already, Mr. Mock.
Will they be able to take a tour?
Yes, yeah, I would like to take them on a tour if they have time to do so, if we can make that schedule fit.
All right. I'm not really familiar with A&A Concrete Company. Where are they located?
You know, I'm not particularly certain of where A&A does their business from. What we typically focus on is recommendations from references that they have, and then also to make sure that they can get bonded.
My next question, references.
Yes, that was through Kansas City, Missouri,
Who
and
else?
Jackson County.
That's the only references. That's what I'm asking. I mean, I'm looking at a pretty low bid here, and how they ranged, looks like it did. 232,000.
Yes, there's a big range.
That is a question. I mean, I'm trying to figure out why you think the range, low bid, per bid, and that. I know we got into this before, where we went to the second or third contractor to finish up.
Correct, and that's, a lot of that was with the newer contractors in the past, and we gave them some leeway trying to make sure we gave them leeway on their bonding methods in the past, thinking that we would be able to save money, and ultimately ended up costing us more. So that's a lesson that we've learned in the past, that we will not give any leeway. If they cannot get bonding within the required time frame, we will simply move to the second or third.
Thank you.
Mr. Ernst.
I do appreciate the map, and of course, personally, I think everybody thinks the wrong board doesn't get as much as everybody else's board, but we will deal with that at a lot of other dates. I do notice that as you do 83rd Street was scheduled for several years, and it's still on this map. Am I correct in saying that if it isn't highlighted, it's not this year's job?
It's not going to be done under our normal overlay project. That'll be done with the White Oak West on May.
Perfect.
And it's being bid here in the next couple of weeks.
That's what I thought was and the concrete bids is in line with his estimate, and I know at least from my work, construction is going up right now. I think things are really important. So I'm glad you got this in when you did, so we can get one in that hope it holds up. Thank you.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Hildestrand?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Nelson?
Yes.
Alderman Asher?
Yes.
Alderman Ernst?
Yes.
Alderman Anderson?
Yes.
Motion passes.